Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Ever since I was young, I've harbored a fondness for female clothing. It was the lace and frills that seemed to captivate me. They were like whispered secrets made tangible. When my mother would leave the house, I'd sneak into her room and lose myself in the delicate textures of her wardrobe, allowing my fingers to trace the soft edges of silk and satin. The dresses called to me, their beauty like a siren song, enchanting and irresistible. One fateful day, as I stood before the mirror, I couldn't resist any longer. My hands trembled as I reached for the red dress that hung in the back of my closet, a hidden treasure stashed away from the prying eyes of others. It was in that moment that I fully embraced the allure of cross-dressing. With every fiber of my being, I knew it was an intrinsic part of who I was. I carefully removed my clothes, folding them neatly on the chair. Then, I gently slipped the dress over my head, feeling the fabric cascade down my body and settle into place. It fit snugly around my waist, accentuating my slender figure. The skirt flared out, brushing against the tops of my knees. My heart raced with excitement, a dizzying mixture of desire and fear. Is this really me? I wondered, staring at the reflection before me. Yet deep within myself, I knew the answer. The dress alone wasn't enough. I needed more. I rummaged through my collection of feminine accessories, hands shaking with anticipation. I chose a pair of sheer stockings, the kind that clung to the skin like a secret lover, and slid them up my legs. I fastened them with garters, expertly hiding the evidence beneath the hem of my dress. Next came the shoes, black pumps with a modest heel that promised grace and poise. I stepped into them, feeling instantly taller and more powerful than before. The transformation continued as I adorned my wrists with delicate bracelets and slipped on a pair of silver earrings that twinkled in the dim light. In the mirror, I saw a new version of myself emerging, and it was thrilling. Is this who I've always been? I mused, struggling to reconcile the person I saw with the one I had known for so long. But as the final touch, the cherry-red lipstick, met my lips, the truth became undeniable. "Hello, beautiful," I whispered to my reflection, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through my chest. Each day, my desire to this newfound identity blossomed, and with it came the urge for daring. I began to take more risks, venturing out of my room and into the house dressed in my finery. I'd walk through the empty hallways, feeling the swish of my skirts brushing against my legs like a lover's caress. One day, my mother invited her best friend, Linda, over for an impromptu visit. Their laughter rang through the house as they shared stories and reminisced about their younger days. With each step, I could feel the pulse of their joy reverberating through the walls. "Remember when we used to dress up and sneak into clubs?" Linda asked, her voice full of mischief. "Oh, those were the days," my mother replied wistfully. "We felt so powerful, didn't we?" Absolutely," Linda agreed. "Like we could conquer the world." Their words echoed in my ears, stirring within me a sense of camaraderie I hadn't expected. The thrill of their adventures, the allure of transformation, the taste of freedom, all things I craved yet had never experienced. But how could I share that with them? What would they think of me? As I stood in the shadows, just beyond the doorway, I made a decision. It was time to take another risk. Heart-pounding, I crept down the stairs, slipping from one hiding spot to another, avoiding their gaze. My breath hitched in my throat as I reached the bottom step, the final obstacle between me and the living room where they sat. "Can you imagine if our kids ever tried something like that?" Linda mused, taking a sip of her wine. "Ha, they wouldn't dare," my mother replied, shaking her head. Wouldn't I thought, a mix of defiance and uncertainty swirling within me. I hesitated, torn between the desire for acceptance and the fear of rejection. But as I stood there, dressed in my secret identity, I knew I couldn't turn back. "Here goes nothing," I whispered to myself, and took a step forward. As the evening wore on, Linda's laughter grew louder, her gestures more exaggerated. Several empty wine glasses littered the table, evidence of the merriment that had unfolded. I watched from the stairs as my mother struggled to suppress a smile, clearly amused by her friend's antics. All right, my mother finally conceded, steadying Linda with a gentle hand. I think it's time for you to sleep this off. Can't argue with that, Linda slurred, making a valiant effort to stand upright. But I really shouldn't drive home like this. Of course not, my mother agreed, concern etched in her voice. You can stay here tonight. I'll set up the guest room for you. Their words washed over me like a wave, filling me with a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. What would happen if Linda discovered my secret? Would she recoil in disgust or accept me as an ally? The uncertainty gnawed at my insides, but I couldn't tear myself away. As my mother helped Linda upstairs, I retreated to my room, my heart heavy with doubt. I changed out of my feminine attire, the fabric rustling softly against my skin as it slid off my body. Even as I folded the clothes neatly and tucked them away, a part of me longed to keep wearing them, to live in that hidden truth just a little longer. In the darkness, I lay restless in my bed, thoughts racing through my mind. My eyes fluttered shut, then snapped open again, the quiet night punctuated only by the distant hum of passing cars and the faint rhythm of my own breathing. I don't remember when I finally drifted off, but I was jolted awake by the sound of footsteps and muffled voices. My heart leapt into my throat as I realized that someone was wandering the hallway. Linda, no doubt. My eyes darted to the door, then back to the hiding spot where I'd stashed my secret wardrobe. What if she found it? What would she think of me? Where's the damn bathroom? Linda's voice carried through the walls. I can't find anything in this house. Down the hall, on the right, my mother replied, her tone patient but weary. Thanks, Linda muttered, stumbling her way toward the bathroom. I lay there for a moment, frozen and breathless, feeling as though I had narrowly escaped some terrible fate. But as the night wore on and the sounds of the house settled once more into silence, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed, that the door to my hidden world had been cracked open just a fraction and there was no turning back. My heart pounded, a frantic rhythm that I was certain would betray my secret. Linda's footsteps grew closer, and I felt a creeping sense of dread as the door creaked open. I closed my eyes tightly, feigning sleep. Damn, she whispered to herself, fumbling in the darkness. Moonlight filtered through the curtains, casting her silhouette onto the floor. This isn't the bathroom either. Linda. My voice cracked involuntarily, and I cursed myself for not remaining silent. Sweetie? She squinted at me, her eyes adjusting to the dim light. As they fell upon my outfit, a delicate lace dress that hugged my body paired with stockings and dainty heels, I braced myself for judgment or disgust, but it never came. Darling, you look lovely, she murmured, unfazed by my attire. Her words washed over me like a soothing balm, calming the storm within. Is this what you've been hiding all this time? Yeah, I admitted, my voice barely audible. I sat up, clutching a pillow to my chest. I'm sorry you had to find out like this. Sorry? She moved closer, perching on the edge of my bed. Her gaze held warmth, understanding. There's no need to apologize. We all have our secrets, don't we? Even you? I asked tentatively, searching her face for any hint of betrayal. Of course, she replied, her smile soft. Especially me. We sat there in the moonlit room, two souls bound by shared understanding. The weight of my secret seemed to lift, replaced by a cautious hope. In that moment, I realized that perhaps I wasn't as alone as I'd believed. Would you like me to help you with your makeup? Linda offered, her fingers brushing against a set of brushes on my vanity. Really? You'd do that? I couldn't keep the surprise from my voice. Of course, she said. I'd be honored. Thank you. The words felt heavy with gratitude, but I allowed myself to let go of the fear that had gripped me moments ago. With a nod, Linda guided me to sit in front of the mirror. The familiar reflection greeted me, but this time it was tinged with something new, acceptance and anticipation. As Linda worked her magic, I watched as the person in the mirror began to change. My face, once marred by uncertainty, softened under her skilled hands. The melancholic lines around my eyes disappeared, replaced by shades of shimmering shadow that danced in the dim light. "Close your eyes," she instructed, her voice gentle yet firm. I obeyed without hesitation, trusting her completely. A brush swept across my eyelids, leaving a cool trail in its wake. The sensation was both calming and exhilarating, like dipping my toes into the ocean for the first time. "All right, open them," Linda said finally, stepping back to admire her handiwork. I blinked, taking in the transformation before me. The girl in the mirror stared back, her eyes wide and full of wonder. She was different, confident, poised, and beautiful. "Wow," I breathed, unable to tear my gaze away from her. "Is that really me?" Linda smiled, her eyes meeting mine in the reflection. "Yes, it's you, and she is absolutely stunning." "Thank you, Linda." The words felt inadequate, but they were all I had. "This means more to me than you could ever know." "It's my pleasure, sweetheart," she replied, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Embrace her, cherish her, and remember that she is a part of you. Don't be afraid to let her shine." As we sat there, basking in the glow of newfound understanding, I knew that I had found not only an ally, but a friend. A friend who saw me for who I truly was, not just the boy struggling with his identity, but the girl who longed to be seen and accepted. And though uncertainty still lingered at the edges, in that moment I felt whole. The girl in the mirror smiled back at me, a testament to the power of friendship and the beauty of transformation. The night had grown late, and the weight of the day's revelations pulled at my eyelids. Linda yawned as she stood up, stretching her arms above her head. "Time for bed, I think," she said softly, her voice a soothing balm against the rawness of my thoughts. "We both need some rest." I nodded in agreement, my eyes lingering on the girl in the mirror one last time before rising from the vanity chair. She seemed to wink at me, a glimmer of hope and promise amidst the shadows that clung to the corners of the room. As we made our way down the hall, the soft patter of our footsteps whispered reassurances, a gentle reminder of the connection we now shared. "Good night, Linda," I murmured as she reached for the door to the guest room. "Sweet dreams, dear," she replied with a warm smile, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Tomorrow is a new day full of possibilities." With that, she closed the door behind her, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I was tired, but sleep eluded me, my mind racing through the events of the night, reliving each precious moment of understanding and acceptance. It wasn't until the first light of dawn began to seep through the curtains that sleep finally claimed me. When I awoke, sunlight poured through the window, casting golden beams across the rumpled sheets. My heart felt lighter, as though the burden of fear and secrecy had been lifted, if only for a little while. I could hear the murmur of voices coming from downstairs, my mom and Linda, no doubt discussing their plans for the day. "Morning, sleepyhead," Linda greeted me as I entered the kitchen, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. My mom looked up from her seat at the table, her face lighting up with a smile. "Good morning," she said, pressing a steaming mug of coffee into my hands. "Did you sleep well?" "Eventually," I replied, taking a sip of the hot liquid and relishing the warmth that spread through my body. I had a lot on my mind. Linda's gaze met mine, understanding passing between us like a secret code. "Well, now that you're up, I have an idea," she said, her tone conspiratorial. "Why don't you come over to my place later this week? We can have some more girl time, and I can teach you a few tricks you might find useful." "Really?" I asked, the excitement bubbling up within me, tempered only by the lingering uncertainty that clung to the edges of my newfound identity. "That would be amazing." "Great," Linda exclaimed, exchanging a knowing look with my mom. "How about Thursday afternoon? I'll be free then." "Thursday it is," I agreed, a tentative smile playing at the corners of my lips. As we made our plans, the girl from the mirror seemed to hover just out of sight, a silent witness to the unfolding possibilities of transformation and friendship. A couple of days had trickled by, each moment a soft blend of anticipation and anxiety. The rays of the afternoon sun bathed my skin as I stood in front of Linda's door, my heart pounding with uncertainty. With a deep breath, I pressed the doorbell, a simple chime that echoed through the house like a harbinger of change. "Come in, sweetie," Linda called out from within, her voice a warm feel that dispelled my fears. As I stepped inside, the scent of lavender greeted me, a calming presence that settled over my thoughts like a gentle mist. "Ready for your transformation?" she asked, smiling as she led me down the hallway to a room filled with mirrors and soft lighting. The air seemed to shimmer with possibility, the reflections of 1,000 selves waiting to be born. "Okay, let's start with your hair." She began brushing my hair, her skilled hands working through the tangles and knots until it fell like silk around my shoulders. "Now we'll move on to makeup." Her fingers danced across my face, applying foundation, mascara, and lipstick with an artist's precision. At every step, she offered words of guidance and encouragement, like a wise mentor nurturing a fledgling talent. "Remember, less is more when it comes to makeup," she murmured, her eyes locked on my reflection. "You want to enhance your natural beauty, not cover it up." I felt a shiver of recognition as her words sank in, a truth that seemed to resonate through my entire being. For so long, I had been searching for a way to express the person buried deep within, yearning to break free from the constraints of expectation and tradition. And now, here was Linda, showing me how to find that hidden self. "All right, time for the finishing touches," she announced, stepping back to survey her handiwork. "What do you think?" I stared at the girl in the mirror, a stranger and yet somehow achingly familiar. The makeup had softened my features, drawing out the delicate lines and curves that had always been there, hidden beneath the veneer of masculinity. I was transfixed by the transformation, the sensation of being both seen and unseen. "Thank you," I whispered, my voice quivering with gratitude. "You have no idea what this means to me." Linda's eyes shone with empathy as she pulled me into a hug, her warmth enveloping me like a protective shield. "It's my pleasure, love," she murmured, her breath warm against my ear. "I'm here for you always." As we stood there, our hearts beating in sync, I felt an overwhelming sense of belonging. For the first time in my life, I was not alone in my journey, but rather accompanied by a friend who understood the complexities of my soul. And as I gazed into the mirror once more, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with courage and grace, buoyed by the support of those who truly saw me for who I was. The afternoon light filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the room as I stood before the mirror in Linda's bedroom. My heart pounded with anticipation, a strange mix of excitement and uncertainty coursing through my veins. "Are you ready for the grand reveal?" Linda asked, her voice tinged with excitement. I nodded, unable to speak, my mouth suddenly dry. With a flourish, she pulled out a set of clothes from the wardrobe, laying them out on the bed for me to see. "First, we have these delicate lace panties along with a matching bra. They're a soft pink, perfect for making your skin look radiant," she explained, her fingers tracing over the intricate pattern of the lingerie. I hesitated for a moment, feeling a twinge of vulnerability at the thought of bearing so much of myself, but I knew this was an essential part of the transformation. Next, Linda held up a gorgeous floral dress that seemed to embody the very essence of femininity. Its fabric was soft and flowing, adorned with a pattern of roses that seemed to bloom against the pale background. The cut was modest, yet flattering, with a V neckline and a cinched waist that would accentuate my curves. "Of course, no outfit is complete without the perfect pair of shoes," she continued, unveiling a pair of elegant nude heels with a delicate ankle strap. "These will give you just the right amount of height while still being comfortable enough for you to walk in." As I slipped into the undergarments and dress, feeling the silky fabric glide over my skin, I marveled at how natural it felt, as if I was finally stepping into my true self. Linda expertly applied my makeup, a subtle combination of rosy blush, mascara, and a soft pink lip color that brought out the warmth in my complexion. "Finally, we need to choose a new name for you," she said, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. Something that feels just right, that truly represents who you are. I thought for a moment, my mind wandering through a sea of names before one seemed to rise above the rest. Sophia, I whispered, testing the name on my lips. It felt like a perfect fit, a name that embodied both strength and grace. Beautiful, Linda smiled, her eyes welling up with pride as she gazed at me in the mirror. Sophia, it is. As I stared back at my reflection, a wave of emotion washed over me. In that moment, I realized that I had not only found my true identity, but also gained a new friend in Linda. Through her understanding and support, she had shown me that I was not alone, that there were others out there who would accept and love me for who I am. Thank you, Linda, I murmured, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. For everything. Of course, Sophia, she replied, her voice full of warmth. I'm here for you, always. And as we stood there, our hearts beating in sync, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with courage and grace, buoyed by the support of those who truly saw me for who I was. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.